this is your host, Julia Napini. I am a clinical and forensic social worker who owns a counseling practice and a consulting business. In this show, we discuss the challenges of being successful in business while maintaining your integrity and staying true to yourself. Join me while I interview other professionals and share insights from life and experience. Let's talk about RingRx, our latest sponsor. RingRx is a high-quality, HIPAA-compliant telephone, text, and fax communications platform. They provide seamless, cost-effective communications for behavioral therapists, medical practices, hospitals, and other healthcare providers. RingRx is designed for modern healthcare environments. They offer customizable features like a phone app, automated patient outreach, voicemail, after-hours call routing, and top-quality desk phones. Try RingRx for free today at ringrx.com. And if you sign up using the code CLIMB, you'll get 15% off your monthly bill forever. Conditions apply. Welcome to another episode of the Compassionate Climb podcast. Very excited about this episode today. So we have a guest that is going to speak to us about a business that she started and about the work that she's doing to really nurture the entrepreneurial spirit in children, which I felt was very fitting for the value system that we operate within in this podcast. And for those of us business owners out there, the things that we can be doing to start our kids off early with some of the positive messages about money. So Sheri Jones, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be with you and the audience today.
We are equally excited. So I would love to hear more about your journey, your career climb, where you started, and how this all came to be with this business that you developed. And it sounds like you have multiple, so fill us in.
Yeah, sure. So originally I studied as a grade school teacher, love working with young people and really, opening their minds to what's possible for them and really making a difference. And so that's sort of where I started. Then I got married and me and my husband quit our jobs to travel the world full time for a year. And so that was a really fantastic experience. I think we've visited like 40 plus countries in a year.
Oh my gosh.
And absolutely loved it. And so when we came home and we decided to start a family, we already sort of had that mindset that we wanted to do things a little bit differently. I really wanted to have that opportunity, if I could, to be at home and raise our children. And we'd gone from that 2-income lifestyle to the one. And we really decided that, hey, how can we sort of do things differently so to enable us to have that lifestyle? So we started, sort of investing in property, and that was great, and did some other investments. But it was really when we hit the online business space that really took us to the next level. So within 5 years, my husband was able to quit his job, and we're both able to have that freedom of really working from home and having that lifestyle with raising our children. So we have 4 children now. The youngest is 5, the eldest is 15. And when my eldest was 8, we sort of had some friends over for dinner one night, and without even talking to me beforehand, he made these colourful potions and was trying to sell them to our friends. And we all sort of had a giggle and laughed it off. But we sat Trent down afterwards, after our friends had gone home, and said, that's fantastic if you want to sell something. How can we really provide value? And so we started looking at product-based businesses and service-based businesses. And obviously being 8 at the time, we had to pick something that fitted him and his interests. And so he loved being outdoors. Here in Australia, we have lots of sunshine. And so he decided to start a herb business. So people would SMS in their orders and he would package up his herbs and go and deliver them to his customers. So at the age of 8, he was doing around $20 an hour. And it was just a very localized business. Now, obviously, being a 15-year-old now, Trent doesn't do that now. Now his businesses have evolved and grown, and now he runs an online business with his 2 brothers. Last month, they did over $20,000 US in their business, and the 3 brothers really work together. It's actually really nice as a parent. For us, we didn't start this with the intent of the kids growing cash flow. For us, it was really about developing life skills and, interpersonal skills, and most importantly, just building confidence and self-esteem. So our eldest was very shy. And so for him, now he just did a talk to around an audience of 500 very confidently. And it's been wonderful to see the skills that my kids have grown out of having a business. In terms of talking, they're very confident talking to adults and promoting themselves and their business. And I feel like that really gives your kids that advantage in having those life skills that a lot of kids out there aren't sort of developing nowadays. So, so they run a business together now. It works really nicely as siblings because it gives them that sort of common goal. We all have kids that have their disagreements and sibling rivalry, but I think when they have a goal that they're all working towards, it's really nice. It gives them that long-term perspective, and they really come together beautifully in the business. They obviously still have their moments, but that's life, hey? So, so that's sort of where it started and where it's grown to today.
Well, it sounds like you're doing a lot right. So the therapist in me is thinking, where did this idea come from? It sounds like at a very young age for your son, you and your husband seem to be on the same page, and kind of light bulb went off and had this idea to really seize an opportunity that presented itself. And so tell me more about how that part came about. Do you see that as having anything to do with maybe some of your early experiences, your husband's? Where did that idea come from? Because I think most parents might not necessarily go in that direction if something like that happened.
Yeah, so my husband's always sort of had an entrepreneurial interest. Even as a young person, he grew up in the country. He'd come up to the city on the holidays and have a few little side hustles that would generate his income for the holidays. So he's always had that sort of entrepreneurial drive. I grew up in a single parent household, and so didn't have a parent there a lot of the time. So unfortunately, I sort of didn't have that influence over me as a younger person. But as I got older and was sort of exposed and really saw, so I think as we started the business with Trent, who was just 8, so many people saw the change in him and were like, "Wow, what are you doing with him?" Like just in our circles. And when they learned about the business and sort of the opportunities it was opening for Trent, he was on TV. People were like, "Wow, how can I do that with my kids too?" And so that's sort of how Youth in Business was born. And obviously, being a teacher, I'd put a program together and sort of documented our journey. And so it was just sort of an organic progression to being able to get out there and help as many other kids as we can to be able to make a difference with what they're doing, and also create that entrepreneurial drive and those life skills that we're really passionate about.
So how soon after that kind of initial situation was the business born?
I'd say about 2 years, about 2 years later. So we obviously helped Trent get up and running. He had a successful business. He had his little database of clients. And then we had so much interest. And so we were just like, hey, how could we sort of put this together? So we started running workshops for parents and kids to be able to come along. And then we started helping families. And obviously now we've had kids that have done amazing things, taken out an International Be the Change Award for a sustainability business. We've had kids win business awards here in Australia. We've launched workshops in the UK, so we've taken it internationally. And so, it's been really amazing. We've had kids buy houses before they're 18 with the profits from their business, investment properties. And one of our kids wrote a book, How I Made More Money Than My Principal Before I Left School. So it's all sort of naturally, organically grown of something that we started just with our own son.
So help us understand some of the fundamentals that are incorporated in this program. So when you started developing these workshops and then you created an actual program to walk people through, what are some of the highlights that you think are essential for parents and kids to adopt to be able to take this idea and run with it?
Sure. Well, I think here at Youth in Business, we believe there's 2 main things that really influence your children. The first thing is their peer group. So the people that they're spending time with, their sort of network, their community behind them. And that's what we love about Youth in Business. It really provides a positive, engaging community where kids from all over the world can connect. They can share what they're doing with their business. We have, social media pages where the kids can hop on and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. And it's a great place to get ideas and support from other kids, because it may not be, your kids may not have a network of other entrepreneurial sort of like-minded kids. So I think the community, being mindful of who they spend their time with, is really important, no matter what you want for your child. If you want them to be a state athlete or an artist or whatever your goal is for them, being mindful of who they're spending time with. And the second thing is sort of the media that we expose them to. So great podcasts like this, and books, and magazines, and all of the sort of media, YouTube channels that our kids are being surrounded by. So
Mhm.
here at Youth in Business, we're really passionate about feeding our kids' minds with really business and entrepreneurial sort of concepts. And I think a great way to do that, we actually created Youth in Business TV, which you can check out at our website, where we
Mhm.
literally go and interview entrepreneurial successful kids from all over the world, kids that have been on Shark Tank. We've got Alina Morse, that we interviewed on her way home from the White House, where she went to the annual Easter egg roll with her product, so Zollipop. So I think if you really, a great place to start is really just, start watching cool interviews with kids like this and say, hey, what did you learn from that? And they share really awesome tips of what they, for young entrepreneurs getting started, what they wish they knew. And so I think that's a really great place to start, just sort of having those natural conversations with your kids.
Mhm.
Even my kids loved, when Trent was only, I think, 9, we started playing Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the board game
Mhm.
with him, so cash flow. And that was amazing, like just the sort of conversations that organically brings up, like, hey, what are stocks, what is this? And so you really just start opening their mind to possibilities out there. And I think the younger generation is often, I think, undervalued. Like the tech skills our kids have are huge, and I think they can really put that and the interest that they have to really create something exciting. So
Mhm.
so I think if you can be mindful of, the media that you're exposing your kids to, the community, in terms of actually getting going with an idea, we really recommend starting with something that your kids are already passionate about. So if you have a child that's really into craft, or really into gaming, or really into social media, whatever it is for your child, find a way to monetize that. And at our website, we have a resource of 101 winning business ideas that our kids have used and our clients have used, that we know are going to be successful. So that's a great place to start, and just go and see what relates to your child. And so I think
Mhm.
if you can start with something that they already naturally enjoy doing, and then they start getting paid for it, it's pretty motivating to a kid when there is something they already enjoy doing. And so that's really great. And it sort of grows from there. At our website, youthinbusiness.com, we have some free training. So we actually have a training of our 5-step system of how we've helped our kids start their businesses successfully, and clients all over the world. So once you have that winning idea, the second point, which I'll talk about, is my absolute favorite. And it's called sell it before you build it. Often as adults, I think we get stuck in the everything has to be perfect. We have to have the plan and the better plan, and we keep writing these plans, but may have some hesitation around going and actually promoting and selling our business. And so with kids in business, we know they're from the instant gratification generation. And so they need to have success, and they need to have success quickly. And so sell it before you build it is they literally come up with an idea for a product or a service. If it's a product, they can go get some images. So for example, one of our clients, Lucas and Clay, really passionate about the environment. They found a whole bunch of sustainable products online, so found their suppliers. Now, we don't want young people going and spending a lot of capital to start their business. We want them to go and get the sales first and really prove that concept. So they literally said to the supplier, hey, can we borrow your images, your professional graphics? They said, yep, sure. And they literally created a 2-week free trial on Shopify, a Facebook store, and they went and promoted it online, got the sales in first. I think they did over $1,600 of sales in their first 30 days. And then once they had those orders, they ordered the stock and shipped it directly to their customers. They didn't even have to touch the stock physically,
Wow.
but they proved their concept. They got the sales in first, and
Mhm.
then went and delivered that on their client. And if kids say, hey, I'm launching a business, it'll take a couple of weeks to get your product, people are happy with that. And I think
Mhm.
if you sell it before you build it, that is where your kids will learn so much. They will be able to get out, talk to people, find out what their target market is looking for. If they need to make any pivots or adjustments, they will hear about that. People will be telling them what they're looking for. Hey, do you have an organic range? Do you have this color? So I think yeah, selling it before you build it. And that's great because kids just want to get out there and take action. They're motivated. And so I think, and then when the cash flow starts coming in and they start making sales, and like I remember with Trent, he was, when he was first building his sort of customer database, he was knocking on doors and sharing around his business with the parent there. And, one of them turned to him and said, "Wow, can I have your autograph?" And he was 8 and he looked up at me and said, "Mummy, what's an autograph?" And so, yeah, really cool things like that can happen. And I think there's a lot of really beautiful teaching moments as a parent and a child
Mhm.
as your child has a business and is really going through that entrepreneurial journey.
So, what was the youngest participant age wise in the program?
So the youngest that we've had, often we have like maybe a family with a couple of teenagers and then a younger one around 7 or 8 join the program.
Hmm.
So we've had children as young as 7. Ideally, I think the perfect age that we sort of focus on is 10 through to 21. So I think 10 is a really good age to start. Your kids are really, it can be a great age because they're excited. They're old enough to sort of have a bit more skills behind them to get out and
Hmm.
run the business, and they don't have a lot of distractions that a lot of teenagers have. So often that tween age, I really like that sort of
Mm.
10 to 12 age because especially over summer breaks or holidays can be a really great time for your kids to, get their business up and going. And I think, yeah, they're really excited, and that their customers feel that excitement around their business, and that's sort of contagious, which is lovely. And also, yeah, they've got sort of less commitments and less, often with teenagers they have, a lot more commitments in terms of whether it's sport or a part-time job or whatever it is. So I think, yeah, that's a perfect age. But yeah, we do focus from 10 to 21
Okay.
predominantly.
And so it sounds like this is a family affair. So the youth and the parents participate and go through this program. And do you find by the time they complete it, they have what they need to really kind of take it and run with it? How much support are they looking for on average? And is it just you and your husband at this point that provide that support, or has your team expanded?
We do have a team, so in terms of like the website of it, and we have graphic designers and a COO that helps with the actual operation side. But in terms
Yeah.
of the mentoring and the direct training, Ben and I still love to do that because we just love
Yeah.
working with young people. I think we're really inspired to open their minds to really what's possible. And the great thing is when they hop on online and they see other kids like, hey, this kid's, been able to achieve this. They've won a business award. They're doing we've actually created some awards to recognize the kids, because what we found is the kids that joined the program, the majority of the kids now do over $1,000 or more of sales, literally from the ground running in their first 30 days of their business. And so we wanted to create an award to really recognize kids that are able to do that. So we created what's called a 1K club. So we send them a trophy and hop on a call and really help them strategize out how to grow and scale their business for the long term from that point.
Hmm.
And then we've had kids with that have obviously been running for a little bit longer that are now doing $10,000 a month in their business. So we created a 10K club award that we send out. And so we love to have those type of kids that have really been growing a business for the long term come on to our online training, and kids can really ask them questions, and it really opens their mind to, hey, this is possible. I could do this too. This is just a regular kid. Look what they've been able to achieve, rather than thinking, oh, I don't know if that's for me. So I think, yeah, so that's really great. So we provide online training. Prior to COVID, it was all face to face, but obviously we've
Hmm.
pivoted to more of an online model now. But I think it's still great because we can help more people. And we really we believe that, if kids have those entrepreneurial skills, we actually start the program with a $20 challenge. So they have just $20 to start their business. But most of the kids learn through this sell it before you build it system. They turn to me and say, hey, Sheri, I didn't even need the $20. And so that's what's really exciting. I think if we can teach more kids to have those skills, in terms of our economy moving forward and, homelessness and things like that, if all of our
Hmm.
kids had the ability to be able to, do that, we would have a much more positive society moving
Mm.
forward. So no matter what they choose to do, like we've had kids that have wanted to grow their business to the point that when they graduate from high school, they can step in as COO. We've got other kids that are wanting to still go to college, and then they're wanting to create a business point, like from their kids doing, things they want to create the business side of it long term. So I think there's skills, no matter what your kids are wanting to do in their future,
Mm-hmm.
they're really going to help set them up for success.
It sounds like it. So I'm thinking about my own entrepreneurial journey and my venture into business, and not having learned a lot of the things that now are so essential to success in my family of origin. And a lot of it was learning by doing. And the business side did not come naturally to me, knowing how to manage money and how to invest and how to save and all of those things. And so I'm wondering, what are some of the things that you have recognized throughout your work with these children and their families that might be challenging for some people to adopt, that might have had a similar experience where this might be their first exposure to some of these skills that you're mentioning?
Yeah, so we actually talk about that as part of our training in youth in business. So we obviously talk about generating the cash flow side of their business first and creating that and getting their business up and running. But then we actually talk about, a lot of those sort of money management skills and how to grow your wealth moving forward. So what we found is once we created youth in business to a point, we actually had kids saying, hey, kids that were in the 10K club, they've got a very successful business. What do I do with all of this sort of capital now? So we actually created a sort of backs onto youth in business. It's called Young Wealth Secrets, where we really teach kids how to conserve their wealth and grow it for the long term. So
Mm-hmm.
my son went through that program. He was just 13 at the time, so he's one of the younger participants. Most of the kids in that sort of category were more like the 16 to 20, 21.
Mm-hmm.
But it was fantastic. And so we have that as a resource there for kids to be able to access, like, hey, what do I do with my money for the long term? How do I manage it? We started it with our kids when they were very young, like your kids' age. We just had 3 jars. So whenever they made money from their business, we have an element at Youth in Business called Doing Good is Great Business. So a lot of the kids, my kids in particular as well, they will donate part of the profits of their business to charities or to really making a difference. So Ned, for example, who has a bamboo toothbrush and sustainability business, he donates part of his profits to ocean cleanup charities to really make a difference that way. He's really passionate about that. And he's also written a book about it to educate the younger generation about how we can really conserve our planet. So my kids have an element of giving back. So when they were young, they would have 3 jars. Now they have 3 bank accounts. And so 10% of their money went to their give jar. And they got to decide how they wanted to give. And I think that's a really inspiring thing to teach your kids. And no matter what their age, when my son was 7, he was giving back and really making a difference on things that are passionate to them. So some of the kids in our program have, grandparents with Parkinson's disease. And so they really want to make a difference in that space, whatever it is for your kids. So we'd have a give jar. So they would put 10% of their profits into that. Then they had a save jar. Now, for our family, we deemed that sort of a save/invest jar. So they save it, but if they see a business opportunity, and that's the great thing, as your kids start doing their business and start having these entrepreneurial interests, they'll see opportunities and go, hey, we could do this. What about this? My kids had a recent product idea, and I was like, okay, go and do all the research, go and do the products, look at the margins, and then they sort of bring all their research to me, and I just sort of look over it and go, yep, let's go. They ordered their products and, massively successful. I think they had over 90% profit margin with that particular product. So, so 40% of their money goes into a save, or for us, it's a /invest if they're wanting to grow their business, but you can just keep that as a savings. It's really up to you. And obviously the percentage every family deems different for their family. And then for my kids, 50% of their money they're allowed to spend. Obviously, I think with kids, if we said you have to save everything, they wouldn't be very motivated to want to grow for the long term. So there has to be some joys. And my kids, I really encourage them with their spend to think about experiences. So last year we took our kids on a big snow trip. Here in Australia, we do not have much snow. So we went overseas for our first snow trip to New Zealand, and we had an amazing time. And so now they're like, hey, we want to go to Japan for a snow trip. So that's sort of what they're looking at focusing their spend money on is rather, but obviously depending on the age of your kids, often we have kids that are saving up for their first car or saving up for the next phone or a gaming laptop or whatever it is for your kids. But I think, so 50% goes to spend, 40% to saving, investing, and 10% to giving. And so, we really believe that doing good is great business, and really how our kids can learn that they can make a difference to their community and think outside of themselves as well.
So I have to ask who your early teachers were and where you and your husband really adopted some of these early messages that you are now not only teaching your children, but now even transcending your own family and teaching others.
That's a great question. I think for us, a lot of it has come from obviously reading and sort of the things that we sort of were exposed to. Obviously, starting down that sort of investing entrepreneurial journey, we had that goal that we wanted to create financial freedom for ourselves first. And so we did a lot of our work on ourselves, went to a lot of workshops and seminars. We did Tony Robbins, POW. I was pregnant at the time and walked on fire. And so I think a lot of, obviously, the classics like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think, a lot of books even, have really opened our eyes to sort of what's possible. And I think for us, in terms of specific teachers, we did have a lot of mentors. So, for example, when we wanted to, I think whatever you want to do in life, if you can find a mentor that is successful in that space and really figure out a win-win of how you can work and really mentor under them. So that's sort of what my husband and I did. So we were in the investing space. We'd done a course about that, but we found someone that was financially free predominantly through property, and we said, hey, how can we work with you? So we came up with an arrangement of how we could pay them to obviously be worth their time, and we learned massively so much, and we built up a portfolio of positively geared properties that also helped us to get to that financial freedom stage for us. Then when we were in the online business space, we were looking at buying online businesses and really growing some online, the side of it, same thing. We found someone who was massively successful in that space and said, hey, how can we work together? So I think, and obviously whatever that win-win will be different, but if you can create that, obviously our network and the people that we spend time with massively indicate our own success in life. So I think for Ben and I, that's really where we've had the biggest success, is finding someone and really being mentored and just spending time and being able to ask those questions that we all have. And that's, for us, has led to a lot of success. When we wanted to start Youth in Business, we didn't really know exactly how to get the ball rolling. So we found someone that was massively successful here in Australia in the running live event space. And we said, hey, how can we do this? And we sort of, paid to work with them and to really teach us that from the ground up. And so I think whatever space you're wanting to get into, find someone that is up here that can really take you up to that level and help guide you along the way. And a lot of the times it may not even be what to do, it's the what not to do's. Right. And those mistakes, if you can learn from others, I'm really big on that. It will massively, skip, leap and jump you ahead to where you're wanting to get to.
Absolutely. I mean, you've brought up so many incredible takeaways so far, and it's making me think of the consulting space that I'm in and how kind of learning by doing and educating myself and seeking out resources and guidance and individuals who are kind of one step ahead, and then kind of starting a business solo and expanding it into a group practice and then stepping into the consulting space. It's a very similar trajectory of taking what you've learned and now being able to provide what I had sought out from other people to those that are now coming down the pike. So that's wonderful. So I'm curious, that listeners are likely parents, those that are in various stages of their business, most likely private practice, and therapists that are starting their own business or expanding to a group practice, or maybe considering diversifying and adding some income streams. What are some things that you think anyone could do that maybe would help them to kind of get on the right track if maybe these are some things like they didn't necessarily have an opportunity to learn a lot of what is in your program, or if they want to start kind of sending the right messages to their children or kind of set themselves up for success? Are there some key things that they should be focused on?
Yeah, great question. So I think the first thing you can do is really think about how you can expose your kids if this is something that you love the idea of. So they can really, find some Shark Tank episodes. We've interviewed Ryan Kelly, who started Rise Ruffery, and say, hey, look what this kid did and what has it grown into. So I think that can just be really fun, sitting down on the couch, watching a quick episode on your phone and just starting to have those conversations with your kids about, hey, what did you learn from that? And you'll quickly see if your kids are like, wow, that's really interesting. I think I try and even the commute to school, I try and be intentional and maybe, put a podcast on and then, say, hey, what did we learn from that? Watch, if you love the idea of Youth in Business TV, check that out at youthinbusiness.com. Watch some interviews with other kids. And that's a really great way to expose your kids to a variety of, entrepreneurial kids, what they're doing, and really spark something in themselves. And I think when your kids show that interest, and for every child it will be different, I liken it to if you're trying to get a fire going, that little spark that comes. And if you can nurture that and, give it enough air and provide and wood and kindling, it can grow into something big. And so I think as a parent, sometimes just trying to listen and see when the opportunity is right for your kid. And I think often as adults, we can get stuck in what about the tax implications? What about this? But I think if you can just try and let your child lead. And I'm a bit of a control freak, so I do understanding how challenging that can be. But if you let the child lead and you're just there to guide and support them along the way, often I find that's where your kids will learn the most and will have the most success, because kids have amazing ideas. When we run live workshops, we do some challenges and some games, and often the kids that would come up with a solution would be the 7 or 8-year-olds, because they're really creative thinkers and they think outside the box. And so I think if we can just try and be there as parents to support their interests along the way, whatever that may be for your child. I think, our kids surprise. I learn so much from parenting my own 4 kids, and I'm sure you do too. And so I think just sometimes taking that conscious, step to let your child sort of take the lead and support them along the way is a really nice way of doing that. And can grow into some amazing things. So, and just remembering that community who you want your kids to spend time around, and obviously the media that we're exposing them to, I think is a great way to start, to just really be intentional about those things and sort of maybe have some time to reflect around, hey, where do I sort of want my kids to end up, and what are the sort of supports that I can put in place to maybe, just to help that along the way. Obviously your child takes the lead, but I think, us as parents, we're there to really guide and support and sometimes, nudge them in the right direction. And that's a really great way you can do that.
Well, you have had my gears turning the entire time that we've been talking. I think parents are always wondering, are we doing right by our children? Are we providing them with the fundamentals that they're going to need to develop those life skills and be successful adults? But then it also makes me think about those of us that are business owners and how we got started, where we got that information, who our mentors are. It's so important for all of us to do the things that you're suggesting. Be really mindful of what we're exposing ourselves to, the information that we are taking in, the people that we surround ourselves with. And so this is a really great opportunity for people to consider the same for their children. So I really appreciate all that you guys have done. I mean, it's really incredible taking the experience that you've had and then with your own children, and then now seeing that. I mean, it's legacy based stuff is what it makes me think of. It's like you're teaching people things that they can then pass on to their children and their children's children and really set them up for success, but also having a giving spirit and remaining generous and always being mindful of other people, but that aspect of saving. But then also there needs to be something that is motivating for them. So you've touched on all the important things. So you mentioned the website. We'll definitely include that in the show notes. Where are some other places that people who are intrigued and want to learn more can go to follow along and get more
Yeah, so we
information.
have the predominant page, obviously, because we're targeted mainly at parents, is Facebook. So we have a Youth
Mhm.
Business HQ where you can go check out. We'll obviously this podcast with you will be sharing on our socials as well, but that's a great place to get started. There's a whole bunch of resources there and interviews with kids that, yeah, that you can see if you want to learn more about it, like Ned with his sustainability business or any of the kids that I've talked about. That's a great place to go and check out. But yeah, I thank you so much for your time today. I've loved being on. I hope we've really opened parents and kids' minds
Yeah.
to what's possible for them moving forward. And can't wait to see what grows out of this.
Oh, well, I am confident that you have. Thank you so much for being on the show. If you like what you're hearing, please rate and review. This will help others find us and benefit as well. The Compassionate Climb podcast represents the opinions of Julia Napini and her guests. The information provided is intended for educational purposes only and should not be taken as legal advice. If that is what you are seeking, please consult an attorney.